we're pulling together 300 pads of mobile home parks in one metro area, by the end of the year. And like, that's 300 families that for whatever reason have ended up where they're at, whether by choice or they've just had a hard go. Like, those are people that are hungry and they're fighting, and life is hard. Life is harder on them than it is for me right now. And like, hey, sometimes somebody just needs you to help. If there's one less thing you have to worry about of, can my kids go outside and play and it's safe? And is it affordable? Am I going to get my rent raised by $600 next month? Like those are like catastrophic, life-changing events for these people. And being able to stabilize housing for people in need like that is something that just, that's what gets us going.
Welcome everybody back to the Kingdom Real Estate Investors Podcast. This is your host, Ellis Hammond, founder of the Kingdom REI Mastermind. I'm telling you, we've got a special show. First off, because our guest, you're going to love. We talk so much about really increasing or raising your belief lid. Our guest today has spent 15 years, or really I think 20 years almost, as an active duty military, a lot of that in special forces, and is now about to transition and become a full-time real estate investor. Telling you his story is really gonna be impactful. You think you so much of you listen. A lot of our listeners here like, oh, I'm gonna get into real estate investing. I'm gonna go do a duplex or a quadplex, or my man's coming out launching a mobile home park fund. So I'm telling you, your mind's gonna be blown. But before we get to him, I want to introduce our co-host today, because we're actually going to be doing a co-host. She's a member of our mastermind and a real estate investor, a veteran in this industry for a long time. Mrs. Bethany Finch, how are you?
Hey, Ellis, so happy to be here. Excited.
Give us a quick bio of you, so our
I'm
folks
traveling
know.
like always, so I'm on the road, but that's okay.
Yeah, so real quick, just so our audience knows, you and your husband sold your house and have an RV, and you're traveling across the country, shopping deals, doing. Is that correct?
Yeah, so God showed us about 8 months ago to go into an RV because during COVID, all of our investors and our teams were heading south, and it was not a good fit. So he just said, I want you to go to them. And so we did 8 months ago, and it was the best we ever did, not just for our business, but for our teams. So we were excited to be able to see God's work and see how he moved it and continued to make it move. And he doesn't tell us to stop yet, so we're still here.
Amazing. Well, hey, I'm excited to have you on here and to just interview our guest. Bring up, introduce to you Beau Wiltshire. Like I said, he is preparing to retire from the U.S. Army after 20 years of service. So grateful for your service, brother. But why I'm so pumped for you to get to hear his story is because I hope so much of this show just will increase the belief lid of anyone listening of what's possible once you have knowledge and education and a vision of where you want to go, and then if you'll go take action. And so, man, without further ado, what's up, brother? How are you?
Hey, how's it going, y'all? Good seeing y'all again.
Dude, welcome to the show, man.
I know, I'm excited.
Welcome, Beau.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you. It's my first one, so I'm in a room with rock stars, and I'm happy to break the seal with you guys.
So, first multifamily podcast show. Beau, I want to get into your story a good bit, but what really struck me when we had a conversation not too long ago is you heard, I guess, me or this podcast show share that story, because I think it's really key to hear like how someone like you gets started into this and how you get going. And then we'll dive into more of what your business is and working. But I really want to start there.
Yeah, for sure. So like we talked about a year and a half ago, I heard you on with Michael Blanc, and really talking about like, hey, I'm planting churches and I'm in the ministry and I'm a believer and I'm trying to make this stuff happen. And I get out to San Diego and it's expensive. And, through the guys on here, everybody knows your story now. But when you talked about being able to pivot and use things you're passionate about, things you have gifts for, and like the things that you were, created to do, now I can take that and I can empower a whole lot of people to do a whole lot of great stuff. And I was like, holy smokes, like that's it. Like, that makes a lot of sense. So that lit me up. And I like I told you before, like I've sent that podcast and, to probably a dozen people, like, listen to this. This is what we're doing. Like, this is what I want to do. Like, how do I do this? And, obviously, I mean, we talk about like I'm coming out guns blazing with the fund and everything, but I started off slow. Like I started off, thinking in the box, like most people do, is like, hey, I've got to flip houses and I've got to do the Burr method and like take one house at a time and turn it around. And I don't know, one thing led to another, and God kept putting people in our way that, hey, build a team, do bigger stuff. Here's a guy that can show you how to do this. And here's a guy that can show you how to do that. And we ended up in the mastermind with Hunter, and I ran into all you guys and was like, oh yeah, you can go big. Like, why think small? And, people just keep, stumbling into your way, and that completely changed the way I look at everything. And then, seeing some ministry opportunities that we were interested in, and, we've talked about those as well of, there's a lot of people that need a lot of help, and there's a lot of people that can do a lot of good stuff for them. So coming out of the military mindset of like, I'm willing to hang it out there and build and take my lumps and take the shots and take action on stuff. And, coincidentally, that works out really well for the real estate world. And, as bold as you want to be, or as bold as you feel like you're supposed to be, get after it, man.
Yeah, dude, this fires me up, man, just listening. So, guys, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I really hope this episode today causes you to think, pray, and act bigger. And Beau's going to be a testimony of that. So let me just pray towards that end. Father in heaven, thank you for today. Thank you for Bethany and Beau being here and just bringing us together. We pray that this episode and our time together will glorify you, and it would encourage your people to dream, to act, to think bigger for your name's sake. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Let's do it.
Well, Ellis, you don't know this, but Beau was exceptionally cool to me right away. And that's exactly why I reached out to him, because Beau serves at Fort Bragg, where my brother also retired from, and also in the Army. And he also is still in the Raleigh, North Carolina area as well. And he spells his name Beau the same way this Beau spells his name. So he's already on my top cool list. That's right.
Well, so let's go back to that. When you first heard the podcast and you had the idea of real estate, like you said, you kind of bounced around with some smaller stuff. How long? Like, did you do a deal? Did you, walk us into your first deal? Was it a mobile home park first, or did you kind of play around with some smaller stuff? Talk to us your very beginning, and then how, kind of that transition.
Yeah. So starting, even back a little bit further from that, I'd gotten into the bigger pockets thing. And then I started figuring out that, I've got to get out there and I'm going to flip some houses. So we bought a flip house in the historic district of Pinehurst, North Carolina, and got about halfway through that. I realized, like, this is not my gift. Like, I do not have a gift for flipping houses. And that's kind of like my embarrassing real estate moment, is getting, into a house and not realizing you have a clue what's going on. So I kept going, hey, there's got to be more down this line. I feel led down this path. I'm not on the right path. I'm going in the right direction. I'm just not on the right path. And so doing the bigger pockets thing, I figured out that I wanted to be in multifamily. It scales better. It makes sense. It's teamwork. That's what the military does. I can do teams. So found Michael Blanc, and that kind of led me to you and that kind of thing. And even then I was still figuring out, like, hey, how do I put this, I don't know, the multifamily thing together. And I started networking and building out that way as well, while we're still finishing out this house that I know I'm not supposed to be doing. And then during that course, one of the property management teams that I was interviewing, I was talking about, hey, the cap rates are compressing. It's really hard to find deals, and it's really hard to find teams that want to let you on because everybody's a tight ship. And so he was like, hey, have you ever thought about mobile home parks? And I was the same thing that most people do. I was like, I'm not buying a trailer park. Like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm buying apartment buildings. That's where I'm supposed to be. And he was like, okay, well, let me throw you some information. I'll send you some stuff. I'll shoot some deals your way and like run the numbers and see what you think. And I was like, okay, this is awesome. Like, this makes a lot of sense. Like, this is crazy good. Like, I can do this. And he was like, all right, there's a catch. Like, there's a catch with mobile home parks. And he was like, there's no backstop. Like, there is no management team that you can pull together for that. So in the multifamily world, like, we're going to go find the best property manager that we can find, and we're going to plug that dude in, and we're going to manage that guy and make sure he's doing the asset management correctly. That doesn't exist in the mobile home park world, like, at all. Like, you're it. So I think that's what scares a lot of people off. And I think that's what Sisyphus pushing the rock up a hill, like that's what drew me to it. And it's just like, all right, here's a big rock, and a lot of people don't want to solve it, and that gets me excited. Like that's the thing nobody else wants to do. Like that's the thing I'm doing. So I've been accused of being a hardaholic, and this is probably the best outlet for that.
Is that an official military term? Hardaholic?
No, that's yeah, I think it's from Who Not How or something like that, where it's just like you insist on doing things the hard way, but it probably should be a military term.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, and you and I have that in common as well, because we've spoken quite a bit about the manufactured home space and trying to find ways to provide workforce housing. But like you said, you thought about, I want to do in apartment buildings. Where does this piece fit in there? And recognizing, wait, I'm still meeting the same goals. I'm still meeting the same needs. It just looks different. It's packaged different, right?
Yeah, for sure. And we bought our first park, a couple of months after I listened to that podcast and stumbled into the mobile home park thing. That was in October, was my first introduction to mobile home parks as an investment class. So we bought our first park in April of 2020, right at the beginning of COVID. So again, like, don't buy stuff. Like, we don't know if anybody's going to pay their rent, but they did. And it was fantastic. So I learned a lot. I got to work with a lot of great people and meet people that are, not what you would consider the trailer trash of the investment world. And, they're just great people that are, trying to work on a fixed income or trying to work. They've taken some lumps and like now they're trying to get life going again. Or they just don't have any financial issues at all. They just don't want to spend a lot on housing. Yeah. And that's fine too. So we've got all kinds of those in there. So that's what really got us into it. I got my processes down. I figured out that, hey, I actually really like doing this, and it's a fun asset class to play in just because there are so many inefficiencies and things to figure out. So, yeah.
But to go back to you, why weren't you fearful? Like, a lot of folks will be scared to jump into the deep end like that. Like, what allowed you to overcome your fear, not being full-time with this, still in the military? What was it?
Yes, I think it's a combination of things. And I won't say at all that I wasn't fearful. I was definitely afraid. And I've had a lot of sleepless nights and some hard conversations of, am I on the right path? Like, have I just convinced myself that this is what I want to do? And this is not your will at all. So, one thing is like coming from the military, I do scary stuff all the time. I've deployed 9 times. I've been blown up, shot at, all the things. I don't like heights, and I've jumped out of a lot of planes. But that's just part of it. You just figure out how to get through that stuff. And it's one of those things you deal with. So I'm fairly conditioned by that training to, all right, make an assessment, move forward. And then, from a faith standpoint, it's probably one of those things where hey, this is how you condition your faith. This is your fire. I know you're afraid. I know you don't understand this, but you're going to figure it out. And I want you just to take that step. And I just kept taking steps forward and, kept picking up speed. And here I am, 2 years into mobile home parks, and I've got a fun with a great team around me, and we're off and running, and it's successful. And, I still have days now where I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what are we doing? Like, ooh, starting to figure it out. But yeah, there's definitely fear, and that's okay. I think that's to be expected. If you're not afraid, you're probably not where you're supposed to be anyway.
Yeah.
Very true. What's your wife think about all of it though?
She is a rock star. So, and by that, I mean, she's probably got the patience of Job, putting up with all my nonsense and my frantic, because I never sit still, and I'm up early and I stay up late and I'm running numbers and hitting spreadsheets. And she's like, all right, pause. Like, this is my time. And I'm like, and she's like, we're not arguing about it. Like, this is it. Like, from 5 to 8, you're giving, it's me and you and the kids, like, just pause. And I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. So she grounds me in a lot of this stuff. And, I get in that deployment mindset where I'm out there on the battlefield and I'm doing my thing, and it's 24/7. And she's like, you're not there anymore. So she's a big part of this transition thing for me. And I think that, that probably speaks to a lot of military guys of how do you unplug that, and how do you shift out of that mindset, and part of my transition time. And that's been a real key thing with her is helping me adjust to that.
Yeah. To go back to the faith part, Beau, I remember, coming out of pastoral ministry and then launching our business. I think one of the reasons that took me so long to transition was I thought like being in ministry was the ultimate way to exercise my faith and be close to God. And then I got in the world of entrepreneurship, and then like learning to really depend on God for money and stuff. Like, the world, like, it is a faith exercise, man. And I think that's what's so powerful about this. And it's like why I think being in business is such a faithful activity, because you are stepping, like, if you really want to grow and you really want to accomplish something big, like, you're taking steps constantly and you're not sure what's going to catch you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's part of really growing is like, can I go this big? Right? Like, are there going to be people to really support me behind this? I mean, talk about the way your funds come together and the partners you've met through your fund, because you probably didn't know where those were going to come from when you had this vision, right? So talk about that.
Yeah. So that's spot on. And yeah, you've definitely, anybody that's been through this probably understands that really well. We got into this and it started off with my buddy named Chuck, and he's my partner at Fortify Capital here. And again, a very faithful guy and a very purpose-driven guy. And his whole thing was, he retired from the Army about 2 years ago and like, hey, what's my purpose? And like, what am I supposed to be doing? And then we just kept chit-chatting. He wasn't interested in real estate. He wasn't interested in mobile home parks specifically. And then he just kind of kept going that way. And then, I started talking in your podcast, like, hey, this cat's doing it. Like, this is what we could do. Like, you're a process guy. You're a very detailed guy. Let's go into business. And he was like, okay. So again, the education thing you talked about, he got on that path of like hyper learning curve of learning as fast as possible. And then I end up in the group with you guys and Hunter, and again, rock stars. And I find you, I find Bethany, I find Christopher Nelson, guys that are just very faith driven. Bethany's faith driven, that are like, hey, I'm putting this together for a purpose. And every step that I've turned to, I find more, Christians that are in this space that are doing what they're doing for a purpose. Even down to the Metron submeter guy, the guy that sells us our submeters for water. He's a faith guy out of Colorado. And he's like, hey, we're building this business with Christian principles. And I was like, holy smoke, man. Like, we're building ours with Christian principles. Like, that's awesome. So everywhere I turn, like, I keep running into people that are thinking the same things we are and that are espousing our values and telling them back to me. And I'm like, oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, for me, like, that's the kind of stuff I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm on the right path because I keep running into people I need to run into. And, when I have a hard time and, the emotional roller coaster hits of, and I've got that doubt, it never fails. Like, for the last 6 months, it's just been one person after another that props me up and is like, hey, you guys are doing awesome stuff. Or I was thinking about that the other day. And it just kind of fills in that gap for you and keeps you going to the next place you're supposed to be. And you just keep following those steps until you end up where you're at.
Yeah. I want to ask about the importance of a mastermind. Both of you are in multiple. I mean, we have one, we're all in a different one together too. I mean, just in this business, the importance of relationships and working with other partners, enjoying it. Like, how significant has that been for both of you in this business, being and investing in networks and getting around other people? Like, I'm Bethany, why don't you start? We'll give Beau a breath here, but, you both are doing big deals. I mean, Bethany, you're taking down, 100+ unit apartment buildings now. Like, how important has relationships been in this business? Because people ask me, how did you grow? I'm like, people. Like, that's how.
Yeah. So, well, I think that just Beau hit the nail on the head there when he said that he started meeting more and more people that were affirming his core values. And he started realizing, wait a minute, I'm not alone. Wait, there's others that think like this. And when we stop realizing that we need to, or thinking that we need to do it all ourselves, suddenly the team almost forms itself. So when we've always been a huge believer, as a teacher, I've always been a huge believer of the education side of it. So I believe that's an ongoing process. And that first group that I joined just kind of set the things in motion that I recognized I needed to hit the ground running to accomplish the things that I needed to do in as quickest time as possible. How I was going to do that was 100% who was going to be around me and who was going to be my support, right? Who could go there and they've already been there, so they could lead me this direction or do this or save me from this, but I'm still going to make my mistakes, but I got there so much faster than everybody else. The masterminds were key for our success. All of our other investors that tried to kind of bootstrap it together along the way, and the whole bigger pockets are out and, just doing it all on their own 100% all the way. They're still in the same position
Yeah.
5 years down the road, they're not anywhere to the level that we're at. And it's simply, I honestly believe, because they didn't join masterminds. They didn't surround themselves with people that were, basically above where they were at, trying to surround that influence. So I think that was the big key for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say, like, people ask me, how much does a mastermind cost? I say, not as much as it'll cost you if you don't join one. Like, it'll, you know what I'm saying? Like, unless you just want to stay at the same place. And like, Bethany, this, how much money I spend going to places just to get around people who think bigger than me, because I don't want to be in the same place I am 12 months from now. And if I don't hang around people who are thinking bigger and dreaming bigger and have bigger faith than me, of course, I'm going to be in the same spot. So, Bo, how about you, man? I know, clearly I know, because you're starting this fun with people, but like, talk to us why that was so significant and why you decided to invest in a mastermind and how that's impacted your business.
Yeah. So again, I'm going to echo your guys' comments, and it was a big leap for me. I mean, they're not cheap, but I mean, you pay to get around people that think bigger than you. And that's, the cost of doing business and growing. We look at it like the same way, like the Acts church. Like, you got to be around people that think like you do. You got to be around people that are going to push you and hold you accountable. And for me, like, that's what a mastermind is. Like, it's people that, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Here's how I'm going to do it. And they give you feedback and they help you grow. So the same way it helps in my spiritual life, like, I've got to be around people that are going to hold me accountable, or I'm going to do some crazy Beau stuff. Like, it happens. So, but you get out there and you get around these people, and I would not be anywhere close to where I'm at without, just putting myself in the room with people like you, that you may not be 2 years ahead of me, you may be 6 months, but that's 6 months that I can learn from. And I can pull ahead. And, I would recommend them to anybody. Kingdom REI is on my short list. And
we're gonna get you in, man. We're gonna get you in. We're gonna pull you in soon, man.
He already said South Carolina is only 3 hours away.
That's right.
Yeah, Bo, I don't know when this is coming out, but we're doing a capital raising workshop with Dan Hanford. We'll talk about it later. September, guys. If you're listening before September, we're in Columbia, South Carolina for a money raising workshop that we're doing with one of our advisors. But let me ask you this, Bo. Talking about working with affordable housing, like, you talk about doing business with a purpose, business as a mission. Clearly, you're not coming out and saying, "Hey, we're going out and evangelizing our tenants in our mobile home parks." That's not necessarily what we're saying here. But how do you see the kingdom advancing in your fund, man? Like, what do you get excited about when you look at the work that you guys are going to be doing at Fortify?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, so Fortify is actually, we're partnered with, Christopher Nelson. We started Thrive Community Fund. So that's kind of what we've kludged together as that team, and we're the operational side of that. But the things that gets me excited is the fact that there are so many people that are just kind of getting left behind, whether it be, I don't know how political a lot of people get, but like, the government can't get it done. They're not supposed to. The church is, trying their best to get it done. But at the end of the day, like, it's us. And, we're pulling together 300 pads of mobile home parks in one metro area, by the end of the year. And like, that's 300 families that for whatever reason have ended up where they're at, whether by choice or they just had a hard go. Like, those are people that are hungry and they're fighting, and life is hard. Life is harder on them than it is for me right now. And like, hey, sometimes somebody just needs you to help. If there's one less thing you have to worry about of, can my kids go outside and play and it's safe? And is it affordable? Am I going to get my rent raised by $600 next month? Like those are like catastrophic, life-changing events for these people. And being able to stabilize housing for people in need like that is something that just, that's what gets us going. That's what gets us up and makes us care. Like, all right, hey, cool. Like, there's a bunch of asset classes. You can make money in real estate. Like, driven people are making money everywhere. For us, like, the thing that excites us is building that community and helping those people, have an affordable place to live. I grew up and I lived in a trailer, and it's like, all right, like, it can get sporty. Like, there are definitely some things that if you do not address them with a firm hand, and like, parents don't feel comfortable letting their kids play outside, and nobody wants that. So, coming from the military, like, I'm okay with being firm and setting rules and executing plans. And I think that, all kind of, again, it just kind of works together and serves itself, kind of going in a circle. So yeah, that's where we're at. And that's what really pushes us into this.
Yeah, I think the verse that comes to my mind, is where God, a lot of verses where it talks about God is our refuge, God is our fortress, right? God is our stronghold. And I think about, and I don't know if that's what you did with Fortify, but I think about you are reflecting the image of God. And I think that's so much about business that is so beautiful that we overlook is like the activity of providing home, the activity of creating shelter in a safe place for people to thrive and be a family and to, like, that is of God. Like, that is being an image bearer of the God that we serve. And so really encouraged by that, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's fun, and it's a lot of what goes into it. And yeah, I mean, and I mean, we're not evangelizing specifically, but yeah, we're trying to represent that, like, hey, here's a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
And we've talked to local churches in the area. Hey, we're setting up meetings, and Becky and I have talked extensively about this with apartment life and things like that, of how does something like that translate into the mobile home park space. And it hasn't really been done yet, but there's some really big churches in Fayetteville that they send missionaries all over the world. So they've got a huge mission set that comes into play here, where we're talking to them and like, hey, we're not going to evangelize, but if the people that are going to be missionaries need an affordable place to live while they're going through your courses, we know some spots, and you can live amongst people that would probably love to hear something about a little bit of hope in their life. So we're working on it.
Yeah, it's a great way to connect those folks to church, then, especially when a lot of them feel church is off limits to them, like they need to be cleaned up first, or somehow they need to be somebody different before they can grace the doors. So it's a great opportunity there for sure.
Yeah. Before I want to talk, I was just talking with an investor about mobile home park investing and cap rates compressing and finding deals. I mean, how are you making this work? How are you finding good deals in the mobile home park space? Are you developing pads? Are you buying existing stuff? And how are you making things really work from a yield perspective? I love how we can just go back from like faith to like real estate economics, but this is my show. I can do what I want. So like, it's really fun just to talk about it. So like, tell me, like, I'm a deal maker, right? So like, how are you getting this stuff done?
So I think, we looked at that, and a lot of the people that you see, like, cap rates are like, they're compressing as fast as the multifamily space is right now. A lot of those are compressing in a certain niche. So once you get above 100 pads, like, that's like institutional stuff. Really big guys are buying that, and they are buying all over the country, because you have to search countrywide, like the entire southern United States, to find those deals. And they're all competing against each other because they got to move large sums of capital. Then you get that 50 to 100 space deal where, that's some of the mid-sized guys are coming in, like, that would be growing up, but they've got good money and they can bid. And again, those are compressing as well. And then you get to the smaller stuff. And then if you're going to buy smaller stuff, it's hard to buy a 20 pad park, in one city by itself. The numbers just don't work. You can't make that happen. So what, Chuck and I sat down and did is like, hey, let's just get hyper focused. Let's get hyper focused on one area, and let's be the experts in that market. So we know all the brokers in that market, the Fayetteville market, that are selling mobile home parks, that talk mobile home parks. Everybody in that area, like, we've got people cold calling and sending out flyers to that market. So extremely hyper focused. So when people think about, hey, I've got a small park and I'm not getting any of the flyers and my cap rates aren't compressing, this redneck from, it sounds country as all get out, like, he keeps calling me and he's pestering me. I think this cat really wants it. And I've talked to other people and he's bought their parks and it went really well. And so I think it's just a change in mindset. Like, I don't want to have to go compete, and I don't want to have to, chase the cap rates to the bottom. I've just got to find another ocean. And it's working out well for us right now. And we're moving, and the yields are working. And we brought in some, capital partners and fun guys with more experience, because I was like, oh, this is going to really work. Let me bring in somebody else that has seen a deal or two. So again, people with more experience I met in the mastermind. And hey, check my numbers, run through this with me. And it's working out, and the numbers are where we said they were going to be. So for us, it was, cut away everything else, hyper focus on one area, limit the stuff we're looking at, and dig in.
I love what you said there. Focus and doing the things that the bigger, like how do you break into the space? Think about even Fayetteville. There's probably no direct flight from New York to Fayetteville, Arkansas. Maybe there is, I don't know, but like
this is Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Fayetteville, North Carolina. Even smaller.
Yeah. Yep.
And so to think about doing the things that the big money won't do, and that's why I love real estate, man. It really levels the playing field if you're willing to work and get creative. So for people are asking, hey, how do I break in? How do I do this? Like what he just said, go find a blue ocean. Go know your market, move to a market and focus there, and know everyone, and do the things that a lot of the bigger people aren't willing to do. That's a great way to break in. Bethy, maybe you can speak on that and how you guys have done that. But I think that's a tremendous tip for those listening.
That's exactly right. What we did, we live, before the RV, we were about an hour north of Seattle. Everybody wanted to play in Seattle and everybody wanted to be in that fishbowl. And I'm like, you guys are crazy. I'm out. And we went even further north, to smaller markets that we were just in those secondary and tertiary markets, right? Where we knew the path of progress was coming and it was just going to be a matter of time, because people have to live somewhere. And if they can't afford, downtown because it's too expensive, they'll keep moving out until they can find a place that they can afford. So that's where those smaller towns, they really are great pockets to be able to reach out. And for us, same thing, Beau, it was reaching out directly to those, small mom and pop places, or landlords that had 3 or 4 rentals. The kids, they wanted to retire. The kids didn't want anything to do with it, and just continually calling. And the letters, of all things, most people say the letters get like terrible return rates. In our smaller markets, those letters got fantastic rates, but we weren't doing institutionalized letters, right? These were handwritten. These were quick notes. Hey, I'm your neighbor, right? Truth and fact, right? Hey, I'm your neighbor. I want to buy your place. I love this, any interest, things like that. And it made a huge difference. So your scrappiness has shown through, Beau. Very cool.
Some people call it scrappy. Some people call it stubborn. So
Beau, man, I'm pumped about your future, dude. I can't wait to hear and just see how this fund continues to grow, and the investors and the tenants that are blessed, man, and what you guys are doing. Where can folks go to really follow you, learn more about this? Let folks know how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so you can go to thrivecommunity.fund, and that's thrive, just like you're thriving in a community. So go there, follow along. We've got a team, the rest of our team, that's going to be putting together updates on that, keeping people informed on what's going on and how to get involved with where we're at and what's going to be coming next. You can also follow us on Fortify CG on Instagram, and we'll be posting updates there as well.
Awesome. We'll make sure we get all that linked in the show notes. Man, it's so fun. It's so fun to hear, and it's so, I know your story. It's connections. It's one connection leads to another connection. Here you are building a fund, having a team. And, it's like, I just don't want people to overthink this. Get into I always say, get into the ecosystem. Because once you're in the stream, it's like your mind, your eyes, the opportunities are open. But so many people are trying to make decisions when they're not in the stream of things. Mm-hmm. And that's impossible to do, right? Like if you're not around people who are thinking, talking, doing big stuff, and you're trying to make decisions about doing it, it's impossible because you're not in line with other people. And so I just love that, man. It's so cool to see the momentum building and growing, and pump for you guys. So keep it up.
Yeah, and again, to echo that, just like you said, get in the stream, and God's going to put the people there to fill in your gaps. Like it's a team sport for a reason. Just get in and put your arm around somebody that's going to help you get where you need to go, and swim with them. Yeah.
Bethany, what do you think about co-hosting? Was this fun? Should we do this again?
Oh, I always have fun. It's always a good time. Yes, definitely, for sure. But I wanted to tell Beau, you better send me a picture. I want to see a picture of the RV and the family and your first stop, wherever that is, even if it's your backyard, to test it out.
Done.
Beau, you're getting the RV too?
Yeah. So, 20 years in the Army, I've seen the world in almost every state, and the wife's not having it. She's like, I want to go see things. So we
Wow.
got the kids, we're homeschooling, and now we're going to go give them the history of the United States via RV.
You guys should do like your own podcast of terrible Wi-Fi and RV stories. You know what I mean?
I will definitely write about it in the blog. He'll have his own article. It'll be great.
That's awesome. You guys can do like your own RV party. Hey, well, everyone, I've loved this show, man. Really, really grateful for Bethany and Beau. If you enjoyed this show as well, make sure you screenshot. Go follow us on LinkedIn. Tag us all. Say, hey, I love this episode. Let us know what you enjoyed. Support this show. Support the message of this show of really helping kingdom entrepreneurs really thrive in their business and their faith and their family. And so the best way to do that, seriously, is screenshot this, share this with a friend, and let people know what you're listening to. That really goes a long way. We will see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Bethany. Thanks, Beau.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.